I still remember the day my 12-year-old son, Ethan, looked at me with tears in his eyes and asked, "Mom, why do people stare at me?" That simple question broke my heart because I knew exactly what he meant. Years earlier, Ethan had survived a terrible accident that left scars across the left side of his face and neck. While the wounds had healed, the emotional pain never truly disappeared because people constantly judged him for the way he looked. Ethan was one of the kindest children I had ever known, always helping others and treating everyone with respect, yet many people only saw his scars. Every morning, I watched him stand in front of the mirror, trying to find ways to hide them. At school, whispers, stares, and cruel laughter followed him everywhere. The worst of it came from a wealthy and popular boy named Tyler, who constantly mocked Ethan and encouraged others to do the same. Things became even worse when Tyler found an old hospital photo showing Ethan's injuries after the accident and shared it around the school. My son was humiliated, and despite my complaints, the school did little to stop it. A few days later, we attended a school fundraiser where Tyler and his friends openly laughed at Ethan again. Then something unexpected happened. Tyler's father, Mr. Carter, approached us, looked at Ethan's scars, and suddenly froze. His face turned pale as he stared in shock. After a long silence, he quietly said, "I know those scars." Confused, I asked what he meant. Mr. Carter then revealed a story that changed everything. 8 years earlier, during a devastating highway accident, he had been trapped near a burning vehicle. While everyone else stood back in fear, one man rushed into the flames and saved a badly injured child moments before the vehicle exploded. That child was Ethan. The man who saved him was my late husband, Ethan's father, who had passed away 3 years earlier. Through tears, Mr. Carter revealed something even more shocking. My husband had not only saved Ethan that day, he had also saved Mr. Carter's life. Standing there, overwhelmed with emotion, I watched as Tyler slowly realized the truth. His father turned toward him and asked, "You bullied him? You mocked the son of the man who saved my life." Tyler stood speechless as the entire room fell silent. The truth had finally been exposed. In the weeks that followed, the school launched an investigation. Tyler was disciplined, and students who participated in sharing the photo faced consequences. Most importantly, Mr. Carter refused to excuse his son's behavior and made him apologize directly to Ethan. When Tyler finally stood before my son and admitted he was wrong, Ethan surprised everyone by accepting the apology. He didn't do it because Tyler deserved forgiveness. He did it because he deserved peace. Over time, the bullying stopped, and something remarkable happened. Ethan stopped hiding. He stopped pulling up his hood, stopped looking down, and stopped feeling ashamed of the scars that told the story of his survival. One evening, as we watched the sunset together, he smiled and told me, "Mom, I don't hate my scars anymore." When I asked why, he simply replied, "Because they prove I survived." In that moment, I realized that the scars people try hardest to hide often tell the most powerful stories. They are not signs of weakness, but symbols of courage, resilience, and survival. Tyler learned that judging someone by their appearance can blind you to the incredible strength they carry inside. And I learned that truth has a way of revealing itself when we least expect it. Today, when I look at my son, I no longer see scars. I see bravery, hope, and the legacy of a father whose final gift was teaching his son, and everyone around him, that true strength comes from surviving what was meant to destroy you. There are moments in a mother's life that never leave her. Moments that become part of who you are. For me, it wasn't the day my son was born, and it wasn't even the day we almost lost him. It was the day I watched him pretend not to hear people laughing at his scars. That was the day my heart truly shattered. My name is Sarah, and my son Ethan is the strongest person I have ever known. When he was only 4 years old, a devastating fire changed our lives forever. The accident left permanent scars across part of his face, neck, and shoulder. Doctors called his survival a miracle. We were grateful he was alive, but as the years passed, I discovered something painful. Surviving the fire was easier than surviving the judgment of strangers. As Ethan grew older, he learned that people often fear what they don't understand. At first, it was only curious stares. Then came the whispers. Children pointed. Adults looked away awkwardly. Some people acted as though his scars were the only thing that defined him. Yet whenever I looked at my son, I didn't see scars. I saw a kind-hearted boy who loved helping animals, who never forgot birthdays, and who always knew exactly when someone needed a hug. Unfortunately, middle school brought a new challenge into our lives. A boy named Tyler decided that Ethan would become his favorite target. Tyler came from one of the wealthiest families in town. His father owned several successful businesses, and people respected the family everywhere they went. Tyler knew the influence that came with that reputation, and he used it. Day after day, he mocked Ethan's appearance, encouraged others to laugh, and turned my son's deepest insecurity into entertainment. The hardest part wasn't hearing about the bullying. It was watching Ethan pretend that it didn't affect him. Every evening, he would tell me he was okay. Every morning, I could see the sadness hiding behind his smile. One night, I overheard him standing in front of the bathroom mirror. He gently touched one of the scars on his face and whispered, "I wish I looked normal." Standing outside that door, I silently cried. No child should ever feel that their value depends on how they look. Then things became even worse. Someone found an old hospital photo taken shortly after Ethan's accident and shared it online. The image showed his injuries at their most severe. Within hours, students were passing the photo around school. They whispered about it. They laughed at it. And Tyler led every moment of it. That night, Ethan came home, locked himself in his room, and cried harder than I had ever seen. As a mother, all I wanted was to protect him. But I had no idea that life was already preparing a moment that would change everything. A few days later, the school hosted a community fundraiser. I almost didn't attend, and Ethan didn't want to go either. But hiding had already stolen too much from us, so we forced ourselves to show up. The moment we entered the gymnasium, I could feel people looking at us. Some seemed sympathetic. Others appeared uncomfortable. Ethan immediately lowered his head. Then I heard laughter. I didn't even need to turn around. I knew exactly who it was. Tyler stood with his friends, pointing and whispering. The anger inside me burned. But before I could react, a voice interrupted from behind us. "Excuse me." I turned around and saw a tall man in a dark suit. His hair was slightly gray, and his expression was serious. It was Tyler's father, Mr. Bennett. Instantly, I prepared myself for another disappointment. After all, parents often defend their children, even when they're wrong. But the moment Mr. Bennett looked at Ethan's face, something unexpected happened. He froze. His confident expression disappeared. His eyes widened. For several seconds, he simply stared at my son's scars as if he had seen a ghost. The noise of the fundraiser seemed to fade away. Then he quietly asked, "How did he get those scars?" There was something emotional in his voice. Something different. I instinctively stepped closer to Ethan and asked, "Why are you asking?" Mr. Bennett swallowed hard before whispering words I never expected to hear. "I know those scars." My heart stopped. He then shared a story that changed everything. 10 years earlier, during a massive warehouse fire, several workers became trapped inside a collapsing building. While everyone else stayed back and waited for emergency crews, one man ran into the flames without hesitation. He ignored the danger and risked everything to save people he had never met. One of those people was Mr. Bennett. As tears filled his eyes, he explained that the man who rescued him suffered serious injuries during that heroic act. Before he even said another word, I already knew. The man he was talking about was my husband, Ethan's father. The man we lost 4 years ago. Mr. Bennett looked at me and nodded. "Your husband saved my life." The words hit me like a wave. My chest tightened. Tears filled my eyes. At that exact moment, Tyler walked over, still wearing a confident smile. But the moment he saw his father's expression, that smile vanished. Mr. Bennett turned toward him. The disappointment in his eyes was impossible to miss. "What have you been doing?" he asked. Tyler looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You mocked him." Silence. "You laughed at his scars?" More silence. "You humiliated the son of the man who saved my life?" The color drained from Tyler's face. Suddenly, the entire room seemed to stop moving. Teachers stared. Parents watched. Students fell silent. For the first time, Tyler looked afraid. And for the first time in months, Ethan lifted his head. The days that followed brought accountability. The school launched an investigation. Students involved in spreading the hospital photo faced consequences. Teachers who ignored the situation were questioned. Parents demanded change. What had once been ignored was now impossible to overlook. But the most powerful moment came 2 weeks later when Tyler stood face to face with Ethan. There were no crowds, no audience, no distractions. Just two boys. One carrying scars on the outside, the other carrying regret on the inside. With tears in his eyes, Tyler admitted he had been wrong. He confessed that he thought making fun of Ethan would make other people like him. Then he apologized. For a moment, nobody spoke. Finally, Ethan nodded and quietly said, "I forgive you." Not because Tyler deserved forgiveness, but because Ethan deserved peace. As months passed, I watched my son transform. He stopped hiding behind hoodies. He stopped avoiding photographs. He stopped looking away when people stared. Instead, he walked with confidence. The shame that others tried to place on him slowly disappeared. One evening, while we watched the sunset together, Ethan smiled and said something I will never forget. "Mom, my scars aren't proof of what happened to me." I smiled and asked, "Then what are they proof of?" Without hesitation, he answered, "They're proof that I survived." At that moment, I realized something important. Scars are not symbols of weakness. They are evidence of strength. They tell stories of courage, resilience, and survival. Today, when I look at my son, I don't see scars. I see bravery. I see hope. I see the legacy of a father who risked everything to save another human being. And I see a young man who finally understands that his worth was never determined by his appearance. Because sometimes, the very thing the world tries to make you ashamed of becomes the greatest proof of your strength. And sometimes, the truth hidden behind a scar has the power to change everything.